It is time for us to face the fact that the revolution has stalled. The promise of equality is not the same thing as true equality. Now, many of you may be familiar with Sheryl Sandberg's call to arms in her brilliant book, Lean In. But with 30% the target for Linklaters for female partners by 2018, and with most banks and law firms in the UK having less than 20% female partners, the need to take practical action to solve the issue of gender equality in the workplace and in education is as urgent as ever. So that's why my business partner, Fran Wilding, and I formed Turn of Phrase Limited to give people the confidence and freedom and power to communicate while addressing issues of gender equality. Now, Fran can't be here today. She's away working for us, so she sends her apologies. But what I want to do is to talk you through a business overview, first of all, how the business has been going for about a year, and then talk to you a bit about how Turn of Phrase actually works, the work that we do. So, we've been a limited company for about a year now. Our average turnover per month is nearly at £3,000. We've got a low overhead, so we're reinvesting 15 to 20% of our profits back into the business to help pay for researchers and facilitators. Our clients already include Grant Thornton, the David Miliband Initiative Movement for Change, Westminster School, the Beacon, and 12 other clients. These have all come this year, and we've had workshops with all of them, and all of them have booked for further workshops moving into the autumn. So we know that our service is working, that there is a market out there for it. So our aim is to increase our turnover to £70,000 or £80,000 in 2 years from now, which would mean that Fran and I could work full-time for the business. I mean, currently we're moonlighting as actors as well, which is what we trained as. And our aim is to become a market leader in gender equality communications training in 3 to 5 years. So now we come down to, well, how do we actually do this? What does Turn of Phrase do, and how do we differentiate ourselves from the million other communication training companies out there? Well, the first thing that we do is we offer half-day, full-day, and ongoing training workshops and masterclasses. And our most popular of these is something called No Agenda, which looks at gendered stereotypes. It looks at gendered language. It looks about how men and women interact in different business settings and social settings. It looks about people from different socioeconomic groups and how that intersects with gender as well. And then we use 3 core areas of work. So the first of these is our actor training, which brings in the body and voice. So as actors, we learn to use our voice and bodies at drama school. And this is about breathing exercises and how we speak in public, how we engage people with what we say. And to give you an example of a client we were working with recently, a male lawyer, actually, he was presenting to boards and clients, and he said, oh, well, when I speak, I just don't feel like it's my voice. I have this kind of low voice when I speak, and it just doesn't sound like when I'm talking in conversation, and I have this much more natural, easygoing voice. And, well, we talked about it with him and talked about the psychology of it, as well as the voice and body. And what we actually found out was that he was deliberately lowering the pitch of his voice because his boss did this. And so he was emulating this idea of what he associated with a powerful role. And so we worked to open his pitch. We worked on breathing exercises to get him speaking within a higher range, and he suddenly felt more authentic and more dynamic in what he was saying. And I think this is important as well, that from our point of view as a company, that it's not just about helping to get women to the top in these businesses. It's about all of us being able to be more than ourselves and to break free from these traditional ideas of the alpha male or how we have to behave in certain situations, and to really have more creative businesses. The second area, however, is probably where we're distinguishing ourselves from other training companies, and this is in behaviour and consciousness, and this brings in Fran's training in psychotherapy. Now, what we do here is we look at default behavioural settings. So these are ways of thinking and modes of behaviour that we have developed often since childhood. There'll be ways in which we look to survive from people in authority. So maybe our parents, teachers, guardians, and we behave in a certain way because we know that will work with this particular person. And what we've done is we've brought a lot of those habits into our adult relationships and our work relationships in particular, where you often have quite strict hierarchies. So what we do is we use transactional analysis, and we've got this other great exercise called the red card, green card, and yellow card game, where you have a large group and you hand out these cards, and people don't get to see all of the cards. And then we set up a problem to be discussed or an issue. And then the green cards can speak whenever they like. The yellow cards can only speak when they're deferred to by the green card, and the reds cannot participate in the conversation. And what's really interesting is how people then react to this, of whether they're a natural green card speaker, whether they feel free to speak whenever they like, or whether actually they've suddenly been thrust into a position that they don't recognise, and actually I'm more of a yellow card person, or actually I wait until someone else has spoken first. And so it's a really useful way to sort of tap into, those are habits I have, or that's what I tend to do in this situation. And so it's a useful starting point to then make choices about behaving differently. The third area, and this is also important for our business model, is research and development. And we work with a team of academics and researchers who help us to really embed our work in decent practice and research so that we can really measure the impact of our work over the long term. So we've recently met with Nesta, the former think tank, and teamed up with Equilibrium, who are a gender equality firm, to work out ways of developing a long-term data gathering project on our relationship with these companies and really looking at how we can monitor the work that we're doing. So, where do we go from here? Well, R&D is clearly hugely important for our work, and we've got 2 R&D weeks planned for September, and we've costed these out at about £5,000, and we've got a third of the funds already in place. So the £1,000 today would guarantee that one of those weeks goes ahead, and that will be with a team of facilitators, an academic, and us in the room. And this is to test new ideas, to grow the No Agenda workshop, which is really our biggest seller at the moment. So really, these are ways to follow us, and so please talk about us with other companies that you're coming into contact with. And really, to come back to the vision, it's really about equality and empowerment, and really about opening new ways of thinking about how we can relate in the business world and also in education, because what we'd eventually like to do is have a mentoring relationship between women leaders in business and with women in schools about to enter the business world. Anyway, thank you, and I'll take any questions now.
Tell me why you really think you're unique. That's the little bit that I'm struggling with, because I mean, I have come across a lot of organisations that, as you say, are doing this and are indeed using forms of psychotherapy as well. So I was just interested in that.
I think really that they're part of workshops that offer lots of other kind of communication skills, but everything we do is sort of through the vector or the lens of gender, so that really we're the only ones that are developing workshops that have that research element to them as well. And I think that really is what distinguishes from... Well, there is another great company called The Great Initiative, in which we're hoping to do partnerships with, but when we look at the other communications companies, they don't have the kind of statistics to back up the work they're doing. They're not really monitoring the work they're doing. So I think what we're trying to do is have a product that we can then show over 5 years. Look, this is how we're making an impact at organisations such as
and to
Grant
date,
Thornton.
Have you got some?
Well, we've only been going a year, so
have you got anything to show that things are moving?
We've got from Grant Thornton.
I know I saw the comments, but you haven't seen people being promoted, things like that, because I guess that's what you're looking for.
Yes, so that's something you're going to be measuring over 3 to 5 years as well. And we're really interested in looking at what point women get to, often before they go into maternity, and then when they come back. And often it's been shown the higher they are up before they have their child and go into maternity leave, the easier it is to come back at that level and then keep moving up the ladder. So we're looking at things like that, and at what's the age cut-offs, how does that work in different businesses. So and that really is, that's going to be expensive work and lots of R&D work, but we're applying for funding for that. I think that's our commitment, is where we differentiate ourselves from the millions of other companies.
And how are you going about doing your marketing to get yourself in with some of the larger companies?
So it's been initially a lot of word of mouth stuff. I've been going to a lot of conferences, exhibitions, and then talking to people, doing the occasional free workshop, and then they're recommending us. And actually, half of our work already has come through word of mouth. So it's still going to come down to that, because often you're buying quite an expensive service and people tend to buy from people that they recommend them. So I think that's what realistically we're going to try and grow the business in the next 2 years in that way.
Just picking up from that point, you are a commercial business.
We are, yeah.
What are your ambitions for the business as a business owner?
I mean, eventually I would love to be kind of nationally and internationally recognised, and have a company that's worth millions, in the sense of I want to grow this, as big as we can get it. And I think as soon as we've got enough money to take on, if we get to the 70,000 in the next 18 months, then we'll take on a new employee. So me and Frank can do more of the selling and going out and meeting the people. And I think, we just want to keep growing it. Yeah.
You talk about gender, reading your notes here. The example you gave was training a man. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do the two fit together? I know. Well, I know how they do fit together, but how do how do they?
Well, I think that the example I was trying to sort of highlight there is that men often behave in very specific certain ways, and actually it's about getting men to think in different ways about how they behave, and that alpha male. I mean, there's still so many of these interviews I go to where I'll go to shake the man's hand and he'll turn my hand down or turn his hand over, and often go to these conferences where a man will immediately put his arm around a female partner and often isn't even conscious of what he's doing, isn't even aware of it. And so it's us trying to create a safe environment where men don't feel attacked, but at the same time recognise where these habits and this alpha male behaviour, which is still such a huge part of this business. I mean, just looking out here now, the number of men versus to the number of women, it sort of speaks its own story.
Your website needs developing a bit, I think.
Yes.
I had a job finding you.
Okay.
I mean, I needed the if you put in various keywords, nothing comes up. So I would have thought you would have spent a bit of time particularly in this world, in developing that.
Okay.
If you just put turn of phrase in, the first you get of you is via the Guildhall.
Is via the Guildhall, so okay.
And then eventually, even if you put turn of phrase in without the spaces.
So maybe investing some money.
Because you can do things that will
get
that to come up.
Okay. I think we are hitting a point now as well where it's the hot topic, and I think it's getting to the stage where people want to see action rather than talking about it. And often we just talk about it, whereas I think what we're doing is going into the rooms and actually talking about, well, how can we set up flexible working hours? We're not just doing how to speak well, we're actually engaging with all levels of the business, and I think that's where we're going to make a difference, really.
You're a very good presenter. I suspect you're a very good actor as well. Going into something not acting when you've been trained as an actor, is that not rather sad? Would you not rather pursue your acting career?
Typically, in the last 12 months since we've become a limited company, I've had 4 job offers, and some I've had to turn down, some of them I've taken. And actually, it's actually empowered me as an actor more, because now I really want to do that job. That's worth bringing someone in to help with the business, whereas the other ones, the business comes first here. And I would hate to give up acting completely. Eventually, what I'd love to be able to do is use some of the income to fund productions and do gender equality work within the theatre, because that's how this all started from my point of view, as I was creating a voice archive of women's experiences in theatre, because it's another huge area where there's huge disparity in terms of the roles that are available, and when women get to a certain age, how roles are cut off, essentially. So that was kind of my impetus for getting involved.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you. Thank you.